as life changes, as we go through different evolutions of ourselves, as we grow and evolve and go through different stages of our lives, as our priorities shift, the results of that first change will change. So I highly encourage you to check in on that regularly. Hello, stereotype breakers, and welcome to yet another episode of the Meaningful Conversations podcast. Today's topic I feel like it's relevant to everyone, especially right now in the age of social media where everybody's lives seem to be like a highlight reel, right? It's curated and we get to decide what we share with others. However, as consumers of everybody else's, curated realities, it is very easy to forget that it is curated. It is just what they want us to see. It is their front end, and we can't compare our back end to them. So, we're going to be talking about how to stop comparing yourself to others, and in particular, when it comes to your career, because we are all ambitious. We all want to achieve amazing things in our careers. And, we can't help but compare ourselves to others, especially because of social media. I want to dig into the topic straight away. I want to start with talking about how it's kind of like a two-step approach that I want to share with you. And the step number one is reflection. Step number one is reflection on, both of them are reflection, but step number one is reflection on what do you want in particular? What does success look like and feel like to you? And where do you want to take your life? Where do you want to take your career? The thing is, it is very likely that you will want something different to the person that you might be comparing yourself to, and their version of success is not your version of success. So being crystal clear on what is it that you want from your career and life, these things that I'm talking about, they will be relevant to your life and your career. What is it that you want from your career? And it can be, from the different achievements, from the different levels that you want to get to, the milestones, to the lifestyle stuff. The other month, I published a video on your ideal day exercise, ideal day in the life of, which I will leave a link to in the description. If you're listening to this as a podcast, it will be also linked in the description of this episode. So go ahead and listen to it afterwards and do some reflecting on what is the life that you want, because your career will provide that life. A lot of the times it's so interchangeable. They're just becoming much more intertwined because of technology and all that stuff. The first step is to reflect, what is it? What playing field are you on? Because you might be comparing apples to oranges when you're comparing yourself to someone else. What success looks like to someone is not necessarily your definition. So being crystal clear on that is super important. If you enjoy reflection and if you want to reflect more on your life, where you are, where you want to go, etc., I am starting a leadership offsite club, which is basically an email-based club where if you sign up for it, you will receive reflection prompts every quarter. And these reflection prompts will help you essentially reflect on where you are in life and get some actionable information in terms of where you are right now and how you can get to where you want to get to. The way it works is you use the link in the description of this episode, of this video, if you're watching this on YouTube, and you sign up. You will receive an intro, a welcome email, and also then you will receive reflection prompts for that quarter. If you sign up at the beginning of Q2, let's say, you will get reflection prompts for Q1. And once the midpoint of the quarter happens, you will get the reflection prompts for the following quarter. This basically prepares you to do your leadership offsite for Q2 in the second half of Q2, if that makes sense. So yes, sign up using the link in the description. And basically why it's called leadership offsite is because I love reflecting when I'm not at home, when I'm not in my office, where I'm not in an environment that I'm so used to that, my brain is kind of wired in the same way. And so there was this one time when my husband had a leadership offsite in a different town. It's Boulder, half an hour away from Denver. His company paid for the hotel room, and I would, the company was okay with me going there and, staying in that hotel room. But I was going to hang out by myself because they had a leadership offsite and I was by myself. And I wanted to use that time to reflect because I'm in a different environment, etc. And when he came back, I was like, yeah, I had my own leadership offsite. And that's how it started, And you don't have to take yourself out to a different place, to a different city. You don't have to take yourself out to, I mean, you can if you want to. That's great. If this is something that you will enjoy and this is something that's within your budget. But I sometimes take it myself out for a meal or for a coffee, and I call that a leadership offsite. You can also do that without having to pay any money and go into a park and, do the same thing on the bench or do a picnic. Like the world is your oyster. But basically, that's the whole point of leadership offsites, that you do this reflection somewhere that's not super familiar, where your brain isn't wired in a certain way because it's kind of habitual. You're out of your comfort zone, you're out of your habits, and the information that flows out of your head when doing these exercises is very interesting. So, yeah, sign up using the link in the description of this episode. If you want to learn more and join, that's the link where you can do that. So, now let's skip to the second part of this process of stopping yourself from comparing your life and your career in particular to others. And this step is something that I've learned from my friend Amanda. We were talking about reflection, and she was talking about how she likes to reflect on certain dates within the year, and how dates are very important to her. And I remember being like, whoa, that is such a cool concept of checking in with yourself at certain dates around the year and seeing how you've progressed. Because at the end of the day, you are competing with yourself. You're competing with past versions of yourself. And that is the most accurate way to see where you are, in my opinion. I've looked up this concept in terms of the naming. I kind of want to call it vertical reflection, because you are reflecting vertical. You know how there's vertical tasting for wine and now chocolate apparently as well? Vertical reflection, reflecting on, the same time of different years and seeing where you are. And this way you are comparing yourself to yourself this time last year. And it's incredibly powerful. The reason why it came to my head and I wanted to record this episode is because I'm recording this episode in February, and we're nearing the date when I became full time on my business. And it's been 3 years of full time entrepreneurship. And when I realized that, I was, blown away by how much I've grown. And yes, I keep on comparing myself to other entrepreneurs who might have been in business for much longer, like we all are on our own journeys. However, when putting things into perspective and seeing that it's been just only 3 years, it blew my mind. It was crazy to understand that. So I really want you to have the same kind of realization, the same kind of pep in your step, if that makes sense, if this is the right uh, phrase to be using in this point. But basically, it's so powerful. So I really, really encourage you to find dates throughout the year that are meaningful to you. I will share some of mine. Some of mine are my birthday, when I'm kind of going throughout the year. I'm just thinking because my birthday is in January, so my birthday is a big one when I reflect a lot. The time when I went full time in my business, it's in February, and then the time when I basically started my own my first company in 2017, which again, we're coming up on another milestone. But the first time I started my own company, that's a big one. And another date for me that's very meaningful, and I like to see my progress, is the day when I left Google, when I left my job at Google, because that was a big turning point in my life. So think of those kinds of dates for you and start journaling on them. Create calendar reminders. That's something that I have not done. I will not be lying to you right now. I need to create calendar reminders to and like block off time on those days to intentionally reflect on those days and be able to have more concrete, more consistent data there. And yes, it's qualitative data most of the time, but still it's so powerful, and I really encourage you to do that. Now, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this process. I'm very curious if you have any thoughts on the dates that you might come up with, on the dates that are meaningful for you. Like, what are the big turning points in your life that you want to continue checking in at, and continue creating those throughout your life, because life is dynamic and it's okay to shift, it's okay to change. And again, that's why I think step number one is so important, because we are aiming for different things all the time, and as life changes, as we go through different evolutions of ourselves, as we grow and evolve and go through different stages of our lives, as our priorities shift, that first stage will change. The results of that first change will change. So I highly encourage you to check in on that regularly, potentially every half a year or so, because we're dynamic creatures and our circumstances change, and just the industry changes, especially when it comes to your career. If you're in technology, oh my God, that field is constantly changing. There's constantly new developments. And what success felt like to you at the beginning of your journey, to, like right now, to maybe half a year from now, when a new technology comes out and you're like, okay, this is what I want to be working on, this is what I want to be growing in, completely different. So, highly recommend doing those exercises. So, let's leave it at that. Let's keep it nice and short, because why not? And yeah, again, let me know in the comments what you thought about this episode, what you thought about this process, about vertical reflection. And of course, if you are interested in joining the Leadership Offsite Club, the links will be in the description. So go ahead and subscribe, and, all of those cool things. Not subscribe, sign up, sorry, but subscribe to this podcast as well and this YouTube channel if you haven't already. We can also be friends on other social media. You can find us as Stereotype Breakers. We have a lot of really cool content coming your way, so make sure you do so. Make sure you do so. And we also have a really cool newsletter. So, yeah, the link for that will also be in the description. We really hope that you subscribe as well, because every week we deliver tools and resources into your inbox. And we also celebrate amazing women in tech, which is wonderful. One of my favorite initiatives that we've ever done. All right, I will leave you at that. Thank you for spending this time with me. Have a wonderful time of the day you're currently experiencing.